Hello, everybody, and welcome to January's BBB Skill Builder Series webinar. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope that you've had a great start of your new year and everything's going great. So today we're going to be talking about how to build trust with your customers. So to start off, my name is Rebecca. I am Communications Supervisor here at BBB, and I am joined by my colleague Pearl Yon, who's our Communications Specialist, and she does all of our presentations and community outreach and social media. So she's really an expert on all sort of things communications. So we appreciate you being here and listening to us. So a little bit more about what we're going to be talking about today. So how to build trust with your customers. Most of the people on this webinar are accredited businesses. So as always, thank you for your support of BBB. And we know that accredited businesses are already committed to trust. You know, that's all about what being a BBB accredited business is about, is being committed to trust and marketplace ethics and our BBB's 8 standards of trust. So you already have obviously shown that it's important to you to build trust with customers, and that it's important to you to have really great customer relationships and be honest and transparent and all that sort of great stuff. But today we're going to take it a little bit further, and we're talking about how to actually practically further build those customer relationships built on trust and respect. And the reason this is so important is that building relationships built on trust and respect with your customers is really how you're going to grow those relationships and have them be really a lot more prosperous and a lot longer lasting. So this is how you're going to have those really loyal customers who keep coming back to you year after year and who recommend you to their friends and family and write great reviews of you. So it's really how to develop these amazing relationships. Okay, so let us begin with what we're going to cover today. So first, I'm going to go over really quickly just kind of the general idea of what we're talking about and what motivated us to look into this. We're going to go over an overview of the findings. So we talked to a lot of different businesses and consumers about this. We're going to go over what the 5 gestures of trust are and how you can really apply them to your business. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the Torch Awards, which is a really great thing if you aren't already familiar with it. So starting off with the idea, to make a long story short, this whole thing came about as a result of our ongoing exploration of really what a contemporary better business is and what these businesses do differently, as perceived by consumers. So what is a better business? What do they do differently? And what really is the value of the trust in customer business relationships? So to do this, we talked to a lot of businesses and consumers about a variety of their experiences, their businesses, to really find out the answer to these questions.
Great. So we're going to start with the overview of the findings. And the first finding is that trust does matter. So as you can see, there's 2 different questions that we asked, and businesses how important they believe customer trust is to their company's success. As you can see in the graphic, it was highly rated, and same as when we asked consumers how important it is that they trust a company when doing business with. Both businesses and consumer survey respondents rated trust as an important component of business. And next, it was interesting though that only 1 in 4 consumers reported being completely likely to trust companies with which they do business. So not only does trust matter, but there is some concern that trust in business today may not be as strong as it could be. When then asked consumers and businesses to assess if there is more, less, or about the same amount of trust in companies today than 5 years ago, and a notable proportion of businesses and consumers reported that they feel that there is less trust in businesses today than 5 years ago. That is some reason for concern that trust is not as expected as it should be. And we also ask consumers in an open-ended basis to tell us what makes them trust businesses. So consumers explained to us on the survey that honesty, transparency, customer service, and ethical practices are the key components to them trusting companies. So also history of ongoing honesty, ethics, transparency, and good customer service builds good customer reputation over time.
So based on all of the responses we got from consumers, we separated all of that into 5 what we call gestures of trust. We're going to talk specifically about each of these 5 gestures, what they are, how they work, and how you can use them in your business. So the 5 gestures are to be honest, transparent, proactive, humble, and equitable. And these are already things that your business is probably doing at some level. You know, as an accredited business, you commit to BBB's 8 standards of trust, and a lot of these, as you can see, are pretty similar. Our standards of trust have honesty in there and transparency in there. Responsiveness is one of our standards, which I think kind of coincides with being proactive. So you're probably already doing a lot of this without knowing. But actually thinking about it more and focusing on it more can help bring those customer relationships to the next level and really improve your business. So the idea is that respect, which you can see is that bottom level here, is underscored by these 5 gestures. In respect, lets people build trust. Trust allows a better business experience, and that better business experience is going to lead to better customer relationships, which is then going to grow your business, more sales, better relationships, more loyalty for your customers. So now we're going to dive in to each of the gestures specifically. So the first gesture is to be honest. So for all of these, we presented the idea on a survey to companies this time, and we asked the companies what the gesture means to them and what it looks like in their business. So each of these is going to include a quote from a business telling us what the gesture means to them. So be honest. Being honest, I think honestly, is really the most fundamental of the gestures. And it's the one that most consumers and businesses identify first as the most important. So it's almost kind of like a threshold gesture. So if you don't appear or prove over time to be honest, it's going to be really hard under any circumstances to maintain a customer relationship. And I'm sure you're all aware of this. No one wants to do business with someone who they perceive as being dishonest or not telling the truth, shady, you know, you're not going to trust that person. You're not going to want to do business with them, give them money. So that honesty is really important. So in summary, what does it mean to be honest? From a customer point of view, they say, does it feel like the company tells me what it should be telling me? The information that is important to me in that moment in a way that makes plain sense to me. So what that means is it's not just whether you're telling the truth or telling a blatant lie. It goes further than that. So are they telling me the information that is important to me? So are you telling them all of the information, even the stuff that maybe you don't think they want to hear as much? And are you saying it in a way that makes sense? So are you using jargon that the customer isn't going to understand? Are you kind of on purpose making things more confusing, perhaps to kind of, you know, trick the customer? You know, consumers pick up on that sort of stuff. And all of that really goes into being honest. So you want to be straightforward, you want to give information, and you want to be clear, as well as, of course, always telling the truth. The second gesture is to be transparent. So when we asked a business about what being transparent meant to them, they responded that it meant that they have nothing to hide. And as you can see, a lot of these build off of each other. So having nothing to hide, as you know, we just talked about, is, you know, related to being honest. You want to present all the information. Consumers experience transparency through how willing businesses are to share information, even when doing so might make them competitively vulnerable. So an example of this is, let's say, you know, a consumer comes into your store and wants a specific product, and unfortunately, you don't have it. Now, being transparent would be saying, you know, we don't have it, but this store down the street does have it. So that's an example of how you're sharing information even when it makes you competitively vulnerable. And even though you aren't making that sale in the moment, you are building customer loyalty, which will lead to more sales in the future because customers can see that they trust you and that they're going to get complete information and that you're transparent. So in summary, being transparent, what that means to the consumer. Does the company appear to be willing to disclose information that's important to me, even if it makes the company more vulnerable, because it's the right thing to do and it's important for me to know? So that really sums it up. You want to give all the information because it is the right thing to do. And customers, you know, perceive that and they appreciate that. So the third gesture is be proactive. So when we asked the business what that meant, they said it means that we anticipate what our customer might want or need and work together to achieve their goals. It's kind of like partnering and doing everything you can for your customers, even without them asking. So it's really about taking initiative. And again, this builds off of being transparent. So there are kind of two ways to be proactive. One, anticipate customer needs and provide solutions without being asked, and at times without customer knowledge even. So that's like, like the previous example. If your competitor has a tool that you don't, that the customer needs, you're going to be proactive and tell them that solution and help the customer, even without, the customer is never going to know if you do or don't unless you do. But doing so really makes them trust you more. The second part of being proactive is about responding quickly and affirmatively with good communication to customer requests or issues that customers raise. The key to being proactive is signaling that the company is always focused on improving customers' experiences, and this is a normal, not extraordinary part of conducting its business. So you want to be all about customer service, being proactive and being responsive. Like I said earlier, be responsive is one of BBB's standards for trust. So you're already doing this. An example of this that you all might be familiar with is responding to BBB complaints. So being proactive is, responding to those complaints quickly and really trying to solve the issue. So what a consumer might say in summary is, does the company take steps to ensure that I gain as much value from our relationship as possible without me asking them to do so? Also, does the company go out of its way to respond to legitimate requests or inquiries I might have? So this can be as simple as making sure that you're responding to your emails and phone calls and social media messages if you're on Facebook and Twitter. Answering the phone, having people staffing the phones so that people aren't waiting around, and really being able to anticipate and solve customers' needs and issues. The fourth gesture is be humble. So what a business says is that I realized that without my customers, I couldn't stay in business. I strive to do right by my clients and to do my best to make sure they are treated with good customer service. The idea of being humble is that you really wouldn't be anywhere without your customers. So because of that, you should take care of them. And this is just, a fact of being in business. You do depend on your customers for sales and for, profit and to be in business. And this is really connected to having a good service mentality. People who do have a good service mentality are humble about what they're doing, and they recognize that service isn't just important because it makes them more money, but because it is the right thing to do. And the funny thing about that is doing the right thing does usually make you more money. And that's kind of the point of all of these 5 gestures, is that you aren't doing them to make more money, you're doing them because it's the right thing to do and because trust is really important. But having good trust with your customers does, build sales, and it does make you more money. So being humble, it might not be the first thing that you're going to think about when building trust, but it actually can be one of the more important and powerful things that drive trust, because being humble really embodies the idea that the company exists as part of something larger than itself, and that any success that you have is credited to other entities like your customers, your community, and your employees. And, we all know that that's true. It's all a team effort, and you really couldn't do what you do without your customers and community employees. Companies that are humble view customers as partners, and they, show that they appreciate them. So, that's being, something simple like this is just being nice to your customers, saying thank you, and showing that you do appreciate them and their business. So in summary, to be humble, what a consumer might say is, does the company appear to believe that its success is due in large part to its customers, and that the customers and their community should be treated as true partners and considered with empathy when making company decisions? Does the company feel the need to acknowledge me and show genuine appreciation for my patronage? So that's really what it boils down to. You want to acknowledge your customers, make them feel worthy, make them feel valuable, and really appreciate them and the fact that they are your clients. So last but not least, the fifth gesture of trust is to be equitable. So what the business says that it's not only about one party or about the entire situation. We partner with our customers on every single job, and we treat them as part of the team to successfully facilitate our jobs. So like the same thing, like I just mentioned, it's about partnering with your customers and making them feel like you're a team. So being equitable might not be the first thing that you think of, but our research suggests that it might actually be the most important step in building trust that a company can take. And the reason is that commercial transactions, whenever you spend money, they're inherently transactions that involve a balance of power. You know, you want to get money from your customers, and your customers want to see value for their purchase. So the idea of being equitable, it's all about sharing that power and not making your customer feel like you have all the power and they're powerless. And that way they're going to be able to see that the transaction as a two-party thing where both you and your customer are trying to accomplish something good and be successful. So in summary, what does being equitable mean? Does the company believe that it's fair and productive to grant customers power in the relationship? You know, that power that the company could retain for itself. And the same thing is when a company is transparent. Is this sharing of power granted under the belief that it's the right thing to do because of that service mentality rather than because of competitive pressures? And as you can see from this chart, these are the 5 gestures, and we asked customers about these 5 gestures. And the analysis of their responses suggests that they really place high value on each of these. And as you can see, you know, honesty is the biggest, but not too far away, only, you know, 0.9 points is humility. So all of these are pretty equally important in the scheme of things. And this is a scale of 0 to 10, not important to essential. And as you can see, essential, these are really essential for customers. So now we're going to move on to some applications.
All right, so for customers, a company experience falls along a positive to negative continuum. So consumers we spoke with described their experience in terms of key feelings, policies, or interactions they recall as symbolic of their overall experience. So we're going to share positive and negative experiences and how it was applied to the 5 gestures. So the first one, we're going to start off with a negative experience from a customer. So the story starts out with a woman named Sonia, and it involves a company that provides gourmet food, packaged in appealing combinations. So she purchased this as a gift package for her parents and noticed that the company placed another charge on her credit card a few weeks later. She asked and was told that she was signed up for a subscription gift package, would arrive at her parents' home once a month. And then Sonia explained that she had not realized that she had purchased a subscription. So the company representative replied, "We're sorry that you overlooked the information about the subscription." They did not really take into account her feelings or, you know, a resolution that would fit her needs. So if we analyze the story using the 5 gestures as a customer relationship framework, we observe that the company clearly fails to be, number 1, is equitable. So preserves the power it could have shared, but instead placing the blame solely on the customer for not more closely reading or understanding the subscription information. And number 2 is humble. It positions the customer as an adversary rather than a partner, denying any responsibility for the customer's unhappiness. And 3 is honesty. So the subscription description may be technically correct, but it was not delivered in a way that presents information to the customer in a context that benefits them. So the truth is rendered oblique. And 4 is proactive. The company representative did not communicate that it is important to resolve the issue for the customer, but rather brushes it off as a complaint by citing policy and the customer's own error. So in this way, the consumer did not feel like their needs were met and did not meet the 5 gestures of trust. And then in contrast, let's evaluate a positive customer experience. So this story starts off with John, a retired educator, underscores how a local hardware store has kept him as a long-term customer that has been very happy with, you know, the way that the customer is treated. So John explained that the store is very difficult to navigate unless you've been there many times because it is a small and crammed space. So therefore, a tool he needed, he could not find and apparently did not have. The service person helped him immediately and referred him to a competitor he knew did not have the tool, even though he told him that he could order it. So the service person felt that John needed the tool the day he needed to complete the project he was working on, so he referred him to the competitor. The service person spent further time with John explaining how to ensure the tool was the right one and how to save time and money on his project. John was very appreciative and knew he would return to the store always, regardless of the fact that he visited a competitor who met his need at the moment. So the hardware store did a great thing and won John as a long-time loyal customer because it was proactive. It listened to the customer's real need and solved his problem without the customer having to ask. They also were humble. It saw the customer as a partner whose interest it was bent on protecting and put the customer's immediate need over the company's short-term profit. And lastly, it was equitable. It shared information it could have kept to itself, but instead it helped John's needs.
So this is pretty similar to the example I showed earlier, and it really is a great example of this. And like Pearl said, in this story, the store could have ordered the part for John, so they could have retained that profit, but since he needed it that weekend and it wouldn't have come in time, they really were sacrificing that short-term profit for the long-term profit. And John is the type of customer that's going to, recommend that store to family and friends and write great reviews online and get you more customers, which is really important too. So now we're going to talk about some potential applications. So kind of give you a framework for how to use the 5 gestures. So number 1, you want to ask your employees and customers about experience they've had that have made them like doing business with you, or that made them not like doing business with you. So ask for specific examples and talk about them. And when you're breaking down these examples, see if you can detect the 5 gestures in them. And you always want to keep in mind that the people giving you the feedback are not likely to use the exact terms of the 5 gestures, but they're going to describe those characteristics. So number 2, when you receive a customer compliment or complaint, apply the 5 gestures framework. See if you can identify where the customer perceives that a gesture is missing or it didn't go well. And this can help you pinpoint the root of the problem that the customer is experiencing and properly address it. And that's being proactive. Sometimes the customer might just be angry. Sometimes customers are wrong, and they might not be able to clearly identify what is angering them. But applying the 5 gestures framework can help you uncover the problem interfering with the relationship and effectively really bridge the issue. So the third application is to plan a discussion with your employees around the 5 gestures. Ask them to identify the gestures in their own daily practice. Use real examples from their daily experience with customers, positive and negative, and break them down using the framework. This is going to help your employees become more aware of and empathize more deeply with your customers' needs. But it's also going to develop a culture of respect and trust within your company, and it's going to be a team building exercise. Your employees probably will become more sensitive to how they're building trust with one another and with the customers. Number 4, if you use customer surveys or solicit feedback from customers regularly, incorporate questions addressing the 5 gestures that go beyond asking about mere satisfaction. So an example of this is using open-ended questions on surveys rather than just saying, were you satisfied, yes or no? And these open-ended questions will let you know about experiences where the customer felt listened to and they felt respected. Keep in mind that honesty is a catch-all a lot of times for the other gestures, so you're going to have to really pay attention to their answers to identify what they're really talking about. And number 5, use the 5 gestures of trust framework to strategically plan how you approach your customer relationships. So start by assessing where you are in terms of each of the gestures and then target where you want to be. So that's just about identifying the gaps and planning how to close them. And this might be, revamping your customer service policy, revamping your communications policy, revamping, lots of different policies. And it's just going to be about talking about it, identifying gaps, and figuring out how you can do better. And you can download the full report at bbb.org/5gestures. You can also, I'm sure, Google BBB 5 gestures and it'll pop up. But in the future, if you ever need this, just shoot your account manager an email and we'll be able to send it over to you. So the last thing that we're going to be talking about today are the Torch Awards for Ethics. So you all probably already received an email announcing the Torch Awards. Maybe some of you are already applying. That's great. Some of you might be familiar from last year's awards, which was actually our first annual. And congratulations to the 3 winners of last year's awards. They were all awesome. So a little bit about the Torch Awards if you aren't familiar. The Torch Awards is all about honoring companies that demonstrate their commitment to trust and marketplace ethics. So these are companies that generate trust among their employees, customers, and communities. So the application is online, it's really easy to do, and it's judged by an independent panel of judges. So these are people from the media, academic, and business communities that aren't affiliated with BBB. In order to apply, you do have to have been in business for at least 3 years, and you do have to be in good standing with BBB, so that's important. So what do you get when you win? If you are a recipient of the Torch Awards, you're going to get a lot of publicity for it. So you're going to be included in a press release, a bunch of social media posts. You're going to be always listed on the Torch Awards winners page on our website. We're going to do an office visit and present you with a trophy and take professional pictures. We're going to include you in a video of all of the winners. And you're going to be eligible to enter the International Torch Awards for Ethics, which are all the winners throughout the country. You get to compete in another round, so to speak. And most importantly, you have lifetime use of the Torch Awards for Ethics seal. So you can use that on any sort of advertising on your website, on a billboard, brochures, anything like that. And this is a really great way to build trust with your customers because customers will see that. Consumers already trust the BBB seal, and this is just taking it a step further. You are the best of the best. And that's, who doesn't want to do business with the best of the best? So it's a really great program. You can visit that website on your screen, go.bbb.org/sf-torch awards to learn more, or send your account manager an email. And as a special fun thing, next month's webinar, so that's going to be kind of near the end of February, we're going to be going over how to build an award-winning entry. So the entry form is a little long. I believe there are 8 categories you have to fill out. But it's doable and it's really worth it. And we're going to walk you through how to apply, tips for applying, what we're looking for, and this is really going to give you a leg up in potentially winning the award. So we hope to see you there. So now, if you haven't already, I would like to open it up to questions. Feel free to ask any questions about 5 gestures, about Torch Awards, about anything at all. So I'll give you a few minutes to ask some questions. And if you're going to head out, we want to say thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure to present to you all today. And we hope to see you again next month. So no questions have come in so far, but I'll give us 2 more minutes and then we'll head out. But if you do, are thinking about it later and have more questions, you can always just send us an email and we'll be happy to talk to you further. Okay, so it looks like we don't have any questions. Oh, thank you, says someone. Well, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. Wonderful. Okay, so we'll see you all next month and have a great rest of your day and rest of your week. And we'll catch you all in February. Okay, see ya.